This is crazy. Nikita Zadorov goes on a podcast calling out the Vancouver Canucks. And with opening night just a few hours away, we get a surprising update with the lines. We're going to break down this and more later on this episode. Before we get into it, I just want to give a huge shout out to everyone that is subscribed. We're trying to reach 5,000 before puck drop, so if you haven't subscribed yet and you're enjoying the content, make sure to go down and hit the subscribe button. It's completely free and we'll keep you up to date with everything to do with the Canucks. But with that, let's hop straight into the first topic today, which is Zadorov calls out the Canucks. And honestly, this is for the second time. So with Nikita Zadorov, we know he was a fan favorite. Fans loved him in Vancouver, and we get a quote from the What Chaos podcast, and he says, right now, it's probably a little bit disrespectful to talk about your exes. Nikita Zadorov said with a laugh, we wanted to stay at the start, we tried to sort it out, but there's a point in negotiations when the check boxes and a couple things didn't go the way we wanted, and we kind of felt a little bit disrespected. Now, just looking at this, Griffin, what's your initial thoughts? Yes, I know Zadorov is the king of quotes in media, but what's your thoughts on these quotes and saying that he felt disrespected by the Vancouver Canucks management?
I think he's just trolling just for the fact that he went to one of our biggest rivals. He went to the Boston Bruins. Of course, he's going to try and stir the pot. He would have stirred the pot regardless of where he went because that's the type of player Zadorov is. I think he's just trolling the Vancouver fans because throughout the offseason, he expressed how much he wanted to stay in Vancouver and would have met certain requirements. But now it seems like that wasn't the case. I don't exactly see how he would be flipping back and forth like that unless he was just trying to stir the pot, get some storylines going, and just tease a revenge game against Vancouver later on. But Vancouver is going to have something in store for him where we're going to get revenge on him in a sense for what he said. I guarantee you Carson Soucy is going to try and drop the gloves with him maybe once, or they're going to try and rough him up when we do play Boston. And that's going to be a game that we're getting revenge on Zadorov rather than him getting revenge on us. But other than that, I think he's just trolling with these comments. I don't think it's too much to read into. We know how he is and how he operates as far as just in the media. Like you said, he likes to get those quotes. He likes to give reporters something to run with. I think this is another thing that people are just going to run wild with, and he's just going to watch the world burn as it happens.
See, the biggest thing was Zadorov. Yes, I do agree that he is the king of trolls with all this, but I do think there was a bit of just kind of heated arguments between this Canucks management. I mean, we've seen Nikita Zadorov go in and sign a $5 million contract, which is over 6 years with the Boston Bruins. The Canucks weren't close to this. Zadorov and his agent felt like he was worth this. In my opinion, the Canucks dodged a bit of a bullet, giving someone that's 29 years old $5 million to play in their bottom four defensemen. But Nikita Zadorov is a great player. I loved him with the Canucks, but seeing just kind of the management looking at him saying, hey, you aren't worth this, and then him going else to get it somewhere else, I think there is a bit of bad blood. Though with the Canucks, we did see him, and as I said, a fan favorite. I don't want to speak badly on Zadorov. I think he was awesome with the Canucks. I do wish he was still with the Canucks, but we've seen with the Canucks putting up 14 points over the 54 games. We've seen him be a wrecking ball in the playoffs. He went to the Boston Bruins, was a -1, and I believe the Bruins lost 6-4 to the Florida Panthers. So that's a little bit of a salt on the wound for Zadorov, especially if the Canucks go out and dominate tonight. But looking at this, do you think they dodged a bit of a bullet with him going to the Bruins and them not locking him up on this term?
Absolutely, 100% without a doubt. Mainly because look at what we were able to get rather than try and sign Zadorov. Think of the money that went for Boston to get Zadorov, and think of the money we would have had to spend. We might not have been able to extend Filip Hronek. We might not have been able to go get Kiefer Sherwood. Might not have been able to go get all these guys like Jake DeBrusk as well. We would have been stuck in a very tough salary cap situation where we would have been investing a lot of money into a guy who, yes, he wanted to stay with us, but with how vocal he is in the press, if there was a little bit of drama in Vancouver, who's to say he wouldn't have caused a major problem in the media, in the locker room, and just as a whole, where, yes, he loved being in this Vancouver system, but if he's so quick to say things like this while playing on another team, what would have happened if things would have suddenly gone bad for Vancouver? What would he would have said in the media? Would he have demanded a trade and we would have been just stuck with that hefty contract and having our Stanley Cup window closed? It was very smart for Patrik Allvin to just let him go. He wanted too much money. He said, okay, fine. We're going to go out and replace you in a sense. We're going to go get Vinny Desharnais. We're going to go get Kiefer Sherwood so we can ensure that we are still physical. We know you were a physical presence, but hey, we don't need you now. We have more pieces at play than we would have had if we had signed you. And I think that's a much better move by the Canucks on their part for sure.
And with Zadorov leading into free agency, and this was just before the preseason started, he did say he disagreed on details before the playoffs and postponed the negotiations. He was just talking about how he loved the Canucks management, how much he loved Tocchet's system. You can pause this, you can read through it. So he did have some goodwill towards the Vancouver Canucks. But I like what you said about them going out. This is the deepest roster I've seen the Canucks have have in my lifetime, it feels like. You look at this team with so many guys in the pipe system, so many guys on two-way contracts, so many guys on one-way contracts that cleared the waivers to make it down to Abbotsford. They're deep at every single position, and opening up this $5 million by not bringing in Zadorov was a huge part of it. But what's your guys' thoughts on Zadorov's comments? Do you think he was calling out the Canucks? Do you think he's just trying to build a pipe for game one against the Vancouver Canucks when they do eventually play? Let us know down in the comments. But speaking of game one, there's a surprising change heading into game one, and this is the game one against the Calgary Flames. Now, we did get a report from Brendan, and he was going through Tuesday's lineups for the Canucks. You can pause and you can read through this. We will touch on it shortly. But with this lineup, you can see one guy that's not in the lineup and was the extra for was Aatu Räty. Now, looking at this lineup, this seems like what's going to be going into game one versus the Flames. And we see another tweet today from Jeff, and he says, Tocchet says Räty might play for Suter tonight, game time decision, and it seems like it's really trending in this direction. So what's your thoughts on Räty, Griffen, just kind of getting into the lineup and making his debut on what seems like the third line?
I love it. I think this is going to be his season to shine. He's going to be one of those Abbotsford players that I think is going to perform the best out of all the Abbotsford players that get their opportunity on this Vancouver Canucks roster. I think he's been a player that's been hyped up so much in the offseason, not only by us, but also by the organization, Patrik Allvin, Rick Tocchet, and as well as Räty himself. He's come out and said how strong and confident he feels going into this season, how excited he is to play both the center and the wing. So he's going to be one of those Swiss Army knife players that we're going to be able to utilize, not just in the center, but also on the wing. Suter is a great third, fourth lineman guy. He can get goals when we need him to. He can be productive when we need him to. However, if you have a guy like Aatu Räty, who is this Swiss Army knife, who can step in for him just a little bit to start the season, and to make sure that Räty starts off his season on the right foot, sets the tone right, and just has his confidence continuing more than it already has, I think that's going to be great, rather than having him sit out this game and plug him in there a few games after maybe we lose these first two games or whatever happens. I think maybe it's not a convincing win tonight, and that might be a reason why. But again, if Suter doesn't play, I think Räty being plugged in there is going to be great. And if he can come away with a goal or a point, that's going to be even better. And I think we're going to be seeing a very, very different Aatu Räty this season than last season in Abbotsford.
Yeah, I mean, looking at this lineup, there is a couple surprising. Denton Hyman making this top line is quite awesome. I think he's going to thrive in this. We've seen him thrive with the Bruins. He's a fast-paced guy. He can hit forecheck and everything in between, and that's what Miller loves to do. You're looking at the second line. Petey finally gets two teammates that can skate fast. I know Mikheyev could skate fast, but both these guys can finish as well. DeBrusk and Sprong join Petey. You see Höglander, a guy like Suter, and Garland coming in, and Räty would come in on this third line spot, playing the center position, and Amon Bluger and Sherwood coming in on the fourth line. The defense is pretty much last season, with the two new faces of Forbort and Desharnais on the third pairing, and Julesen's the extra, with Shilov's coming in as the starter. Looking at these lineups, Griffen, is there anyone do you think is going to dominate and really shine today out of any of these players?
I can't wait to see that PD line with Jake DeBrusk and Daniel Sprong. Like we said earlier, how many pieces they were able to get by not signing Zadorov. When you look at that lineup, there is a lot of new faces on there. Think about all those new faces we wouldn't have been able to bring in or even extend, like Filip Hronek, like Niels Höglander, like all those guys. We brought in Jake DeBrusk, Daniel Sprong, Danton Heinen, Kiefer Sherwood. We brought in Vinny Desharnais and Derek Forbort. And like you said, we have the most deep Canucks team that maybe we've ever had, at least in our lifetimes, or since that 2010-2011 Cup run where we had the Sedins, Burrows, Chris Hughes, and all those other guys. There's so many pieces that we have in place for Vancouver to be successful this year. A lot of that is due to great management and great coaching as well, making sure these guys are paired up. But I honestly cannot wait to see the first night of Jake DeBrusk, Elias Pettersson, and Daniel Sprong in that first line. Sprong made a great case for himself in the preseason. PD is ready to get motivated and just get back to business after the regression at the end of last year. And Jake DeBrusk is in his new threads. He's a good goal scorer, and he's going to be great for us. I can't wait to see career best seasons out of all these guys this season.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. And looking at this lineup, I do think the fourth line can make some noise. I mean, Bluger's down on the fourth line. With Sherwood, I mean, we've seen him with the Nashville Predators, how hard he was to play against. I am super excited. And just to briefly go over the power play lineup. So this is from Daily Faceoff. Things are going to change throughout the game. Things are going to change throughout the season. But game one, it seems like these are the power play lines going into it. You also have the defensive penalty kill going in as well. The crazy thing is, me and Griffen were kind of talking about it as well. Each line has a new face on it. A guy like Heinen coming in on PK1, you look at the second pairing, of guys like Sherwood, Forbert, and Desharnais. This is a brand new Canucks team. This is a new and improved team. Things are going to get good, and they're going to push for the Stanley Cup. But what's your guys' thoughts on everything we talked about? What's your thoughts on Zadorov's comments? What's your thoughts on the lines going into Game 1? Are you excited for anyone? Are you surprised about anyone? Let us know down in the comments. But speaking on comments, we'll get in everyone's favorite topic, which is comment of the day. Comment today comes from Mike Gooden, and he said the words are spreading. Come on, 5K subs. Let's do it before puck drop. And if you don't want to listen to us, listen to Mike. And go down, hit that subscribe button. It's completely free. You can leave a comment on anything you enjoyed and be comment of the day like Mike did today. Right down there, leave a like, and like I said, subscribe. We're trying to reach 5,000 before puck drop. It's only a few hours away. But if you enjoyed this, make sure to leave a comment, like I said. Anyways, sorry, I'm super hyped up. I've been your host, Mark Pye, with my co-host, Griffin. Take care.